gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for August 8th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, fighting games are for feet lovers. But first, join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Rachel Kaser. How's it going, Rachel?
Hey everybody, I am a very unsophisticated fighting game fan, and I don't know what I'm doing here for this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what I'm talking about either, so we're gonna go over this. We'll get help from chat when we need it, but mostly my understanding is feet. That's what people are most excited about coming out of Evo.
I'm not sure
I can
why
understand.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
I'm
right?
not surprised.
Yeah. Me neither. So how's it been going, Rachel? It's been a few weeks since I had you on. Any life updates? How's it going?
Well, I think last time I was on, I hadn't had my wedding ceremony yet, and
right.
that has happened. So that was fun. You were invited, Jeff. I don't know if you showed up or not. But...
I did not. I completely forgot. But I also,
Actually,
I think
it was a Zoom call. Just say yes. Just say you did.
Yes, I was there. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
It was
very
lovely.
Beautiful. Yes, and the officiant actually, since she knew we were gamers, she inserted
cool.
a vow into the ceremony. Said, "Do you vow to let the other win at the games sometimes?" And my husband and I just looked at each other and went.
That's incredible. That's good stuff.
Just simultaneously just started going no.
That's you don't want to let them win. Yeah, because they like. You want it to be the real deal. Absolutely.
We
I
can't
agree with
enter our matrimonial existence lying to each other, and
right.
we would be lying to each
other.
It's
a foundation of lies. Exactly. You can't have that. Right. You want to have it's a foundation of respect, which means, being cheap when you actually are playing fighting games and just throwing out the same move over and over again, even if it means you just win all night in a really boring way. That's what marriage is. That's how you do it.
Is that the basis of all communication?
It's the basis of all communication in marriage. Absolutely.
Perfect.
All right.
I'm already winning.
Before we get into this mess, let's explain ourselves. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news, the catch-up where we discuss the biggest topics consuming the lives of gamers everywhere, and maybe even bring some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello, Twitch. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into. Let's start the morning mess with Splatoon 3 is getting a direct presentation on August 10th at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern. I am not going to promise to wake up for this one. Rachel, where are you at with Splatoon 3? I am keep oscillating between being very excited and then also putting it off to the side because I'm like, oh, that's so far away. It's not that far away anymore. It's coming up pretty quick, right?
Yeah, and though Splatoon is one of those games it's just silly fun. I'm not one of those people who's ever I don't take a whole lot of games seriously, but Splatoon is definitely one of those that I definitely don't take seriously under any circumstances. But that's why I'm excited for it. It's just, although I was a little baffled when the trailers first came out and they were showing more of the post-apocalyptic world. I'm like, oh, okay, Splatoon 3, Mad Max style. I don't know whether I'm here for it or not.
Right.
But I'm just excited we're going to get more news about it because it's been a while since we heard about it. And I was so focused on getting Bayonetta news that I almost completely forgot that it'd been a while since we heard about Splatoon.
Right. It's kind of thing where we've been waiting for a direct, although it's from the beginning of the summer, I was kind of hearing they were going to do a bunch of smaller things instead of a major direct. So it's once we get the direct, we'll get updates on all these things. And that's when I'll start paying attention again. They haven't done that. So it's a month from now, Splatoon 3 is coming out. And so, and I love Splatoon. I've spent a lot of time with the multiplayer in both 1 and 2. I think the single player games are very, very fun that they put in there. And I am kind of curious to see where they will be amping things up with Splatoon 3 and where they will just continue being this is what Splatoon is. So we're going to keep those things. From what we've seen so far, I get the hunch that this is, for the most part, Splatoon is this, and it's okay if it continues to be that. and maybe we'll add some stuff to the periphery. We'll add different weapons and stuff like that. But I don't expect things to change too much. So when they do this direct, how much are you expecting to be like, oh, this is like brand new and a massive addition to the game? And how much you're like, oh, they're just diving into the details that maybe only the biggest Splatoon fans care about?
I think it's probably going to be about, I mean, optimistically, I say 50-50, but realistically, probably more like 30-70.
Yes, I think you're probably right. I think there'll probably be some surprises in terms of what they're putting in this game. But I remember when you were talking about that first trailer, the Mad Max sort of thing. I'm like, are they going to go like, are they going to make a Fallout game, a single player game in Splatoon or whatever, and it's going to be like this big RPG or something, this big open world game maybe? I'm not expecting anything like that anymore. I'm expecting a puzzle platformer like they've had in the first couple games that takes a couple hours to beat. Maybe some variety in the environments, maybe a little bit more than they maybe even had in the past. But beyond that, I don't expect much.
I mean, if all Nintendo does, or if all the developers do, is just reinvigorate the aesthetic, that seems to be all they really need to do. So it feels like anything else they put on top of that, that's just gravy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, this is not a franchise that is struggling to find its footing, right? In terms of success, in terms of appeal. It is a very popular game around the world. It is especially popular in Japan. It's a franchise that has probably already sold around 20 million copies or something like that. When you combine them all, pretty close. The second game is like at, they want to say 13, 14 million copies sold. It's a massive, huge success, unlike what most publishers could even dream of. Especially for launching a console, like a console exclusive shooter game. Like most companies would even try to do something like that, because like what Sony was saying with Call of Duty, you can't make one of those. There's no one could compete with that. Well, this isn't exactly Call of Duty, but Nintendo put out a shooter that is a massive success. So that when they have their formula, I don't expect them to shake things up too much, especially because that's not necessarily how Nintendo works these days. Like they were going to do that, it would be a much wider gap between games. Like I think what we're seeing with Mario Odyssey, like we haven't gotten a Mario Odyssey 2, because I think they probably want to do a wider gap and do something very different from one game to the next. With this, they're like, well, the online multiplayer, people want it to be that online multiplayer, so let's upgrade it, improve it in ways we can. I will say the one thing I am maybe most hopeful for when it comes to a Nintendo Switch online shooter game like Splatoon 3 is a promise to make sure that the online experience is upgraded in some key ways, mostly just to make sure the connection is as solid as possible.
That's fair. Yeah.
Nintendo's done some work in the background apparently to improve their online infrastructure. I would hope that many of those things were done with this game in mind, right? Where this game is going to be a big online multiplayer game for them. Why not just make sure that this has the best possible netcode? That said, I'm not expecting them to be like, and here's Discord on Switch, or here's even a really good built-in voice chat. Like, you're going to have to keep using the phone, like Nintendo's dedicated to.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, it's amazing to me what things that we'll basically just let slide because Nintendo, that I don't think we would ever put up with from Sony or Microsoft. Like if Sony or Microsoft turned around and said, hey, you have to use the PlayStation app or the Xbox app to party chat with people on while playing Apex or something like that, we would all bust a gasket, I think. But Nintendo, we're just sort of like, Nintendo, get a Nintendo. What can you do?
Yeah, it's sort of like a it's the Gordon Ramsay thing. We talked about this on a recent episode where it's like, oh my precious, oh beautiful, and then it's, oh you fucking donkey, when like one of the competent companies mess up. But I think it was Splatoon specifically that had that insane peripheral where it's like you could plug this 3.5 millimeter headphone jack into the bottom of your Switch, and then there's like this little, I think it was like a little Splatoon looking guy even, and it had another 3.5 millimeter jack for you to connect your phone. And so
was that what it was?
I think it was. And then yes, right. I think this is how it worked. Chat, remind me. Maybe I can look it up here in a second. So you could have the communication audio coming through and the game audio coming through the same headset, and it was like this, like just this massive little mess of cables that you would have to use to communicate with people online, so you could have the phone and the game and stuff. It was messed up. Oh, Nintendo.
Is that what? Because I remember, I feel like I've seen pictures of this, but I didn't know that's what it was for.
That's what it was. I think that's what it was for. I'm like vaguely remembering this thing. All right. There was a whole bunch of Evo news. Rachel, like we said, we're not the biggest fighting games fans, but we'll do our best here, everybody.
We'll try.
Street Fighter 6 is getting Kimberly and Yuri. Yuri. I'm gonna say Yuri. Let's just play this. Kimberly is a very cool looking fighter. She fights with spray paint. I'm into it. This was announced at Evo. It's just like there wasn't like a ton of like new games announced. Like Evo is for like the people who would really care about new characters and stuff like that. Street Fighter 6 still a little bit of ways off, coming next year, I believe. Yes, in 2023. They say Kimberly is a spunky new ninja, and I don't know, she looks great here. Just based on like seeing her, I think she's got a lot of style. I'm into it. Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm liking how she fits into because we've definitely got a new aesthetic for Street Fighter 6. We're kind of leaning into the street part of it, and
Right.
there's a lot of like dingy environments with like bright splashes of color, and that's basically because she's got a lot of vivacity, which I like. She's even when she's doing her idle animations, they show she's constantly in motion, she's constantly bouncing around, and she looks like she's having fun. And
Yeah,
that's all I can really ask of a Street Fighter character at this point, because Ryu at this point just looks so depressed constantly. He's got that tired dad energy.
Yes, definitely. I'm like, this does feel like it is on the opposite end of the spectrum there, where there's just a ton of color exploding off her all the time, and she's like bouncy, a lot of energy, like you said. And then here is Jury, I believe. Jury, yes. Grary, and chat says tired dad and divorced dad. He's got that energy going. And there's Jury introducing herself by just sticking her foot right in the camera. For all you freaks out there, there you go. Jury is a returning character. I think there's a lot of fans out there. So I'm like wondering how they balance choosing who to put on the roster. It's probably got to be a balance of, okay, obviously some new characters, obviously Ryu, and some classics and stuff like that. But I guess with the classics, they can always do that as DLC. So maybe now is the time to like, oh yeah, here's Kimberly, and here's a fighter coming back from like one of the games that's not Street Fighter 2, right? There's the Street Fighter 2 roster that is, the gods of this pantheon, and then everything else is like, okay, the fans of the like longtime fans of the series who have played every single Street Fighter will care about these, but it's not necessarily going to be the biggest thing. Except for now, we are introducing this at Evo, so we can bring back Jury, and people will be very excited.
Yeah, this is something the Evo audience I can definitely see. You just put this out at, I don't know, like a trade show or something, and people are like, yeah, okay, cool. You put this out at Evo, and everyone's like, yes, Jury is back.
Yeah, and the chat says, how do they decide? They decide by who, like they said, horny. Horny is the answer. That's how they decide.
That's fair.
And Mike helping out. She was first in Super Street Fighter 4. So yeah,
is that what it was? Okay. And I do remember that her costume is, because I remember her costume when she first showed up being, because I remember white pants. Like she had very big, voluminous MC Hammer pants, and then they got rid of that when she was in Street Fighter 5 and put her in that ridiculous, like what was it, like a wetsuit? I think that's all I remember about Jury for the last time she's appeared. So if they're going back to the big pants, I mean, cool.
Right, exactly. Yes.
I make no comment about her feet, because I mean, that's just how she fights, and I'm like, if that's what Jury wants to do, I'm not going to argue with her.
That's right. Absolutely. There's another character was announced. This one for Guilty Gear, Bridget. Let's bring her up. She looks good. Chad is very happy about Bridget, apparently. So I'm happy for you.
Bridget!
She apparently, when you hit the buttons, she does attacks. I think that's a pretty good thing for a fighting game, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds pretty useful. Yeah, I might be a main. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff. I'm super into this.
I haven't actually seen the trailer yet, so I'm just watching.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's keep going with this news here while the Bridget trailer plays in the background here. A new Fatal Fury was greenlit. This, I think, and Mark of the Wolves, I think, as well is the same franchise. There hasn't been a new Fatal Fury in a very long time. I think here, let's actually click over to this trailer now. Replay this. It's kind of just a teaser, but they're talking, hey, we've greenlit it, we're making this, so there's not much to show. But that's, I don't know, I'm pretty excited about this. This is from the era of when I was playing these games. Fatal Fury was never quite my thing, but I'm like, okay, I still was like always paying attention to it, and I always kind of saw it, and I would like to get another chance to like, fall in love with this franchise. So another good move. This one's from SNK, obviously. Any history with Fatal Fury or SNK fighting games?
Fatal Fury, no. And I'm a little bit I find it very amusing that they've managed to garner this much hype already, considering the trailer is literally just a piece of concept art.
Yes,
And
exactly.
just saying, hey, new game greenlit. Here's a general idea of what it's gonna look like, kind of. And okay, cool. But I've never played a Fatal Fury game before. I was a little before my fighting game time.
Yeah,
But I'm excited to try it again. 'Cause I hear so many people telling me they like Fatal Fury, and it's never been something that's ever been on my radar personally. So if they put a new one out, that's just my excuse to, hey, I can get into it now.
yeah, and I kind of wonder where SNK sits in the modern roster of fighting game developers, because Capcom obviously putting a ton of money into Street Fighter 6. It looks very good, I think. But then, if you are someone who is into anime fighters, or you really want that really striking 2D aesthetic, a 2D looking aesthetic at least, you have Arc System Works doing stuff like Guilty Gear, and they're, they put out a game a year almost. They have a ton of options for you.
Yeah.
And those look really, really striking. Like I said, I wonder if like SNK maybe feels a little bit, I don't want to say outdated, but it just looks, Mike Minotti in chat said it looks flat to him. And I wonder if maybe that can hurt them trying to bring something back that doesn't stand out. It isn't as flashy as a big budget Street Fighter or relatively a big budget Arc System Works game. So hopefully they come out and it's like, it looks great and stands out. And it's like, here's a modern take on an SNK game. Something, okay, actually here, let me, before I skip this, something is happening with Tekken. We don't know what.Maybe we will hear more at the Game Awards. Basically all they showed, and this is from Bandai Namco, is a picture of, I always mix up all the characters' names. Yeah, let's see if I can get a picture of him here. Let me bring here. Tekken 8. Kazuya, thank you. Yes, Kazuya. Yeah.
It's one of the Mishimas. I never remember their.
Yeah, here's what I think is happening. I think they've been watching Giant Bomb ranking of Tekken endings, and they're like, listen, we got to capture this wave. We've got to capture the excitement for this. There is Kazuya throwing his dad off a cliff and then looking at the camera and smiling. And then it transitions into this. And what does this mean? It just says, get ready. So, okay. Kazuya he went from the like original version, the early model, into a modern model. Rachel, I'm going to ask you, as someone who's just looking at this, and you use your context clues here, do you think this is a remake of an early game, or do you think this is them like promising some continuation of the story?
Oh, it's hard to say. It feels like Tekken 6 was not that long ago.
Tekken 7, yeah,
Tekken 7,
yeah.
sorry.
No problem.
It feels like that wasn't that long ago, so I don't know if we're ripe yet for a continuation of the story. I mean,
I think Tekken 8 was in the NVIDIA leak, right? So
that's true.
So maybe it is coming sooner than we expect. Because that's where I was at, and then I remember like seeing, I'm like, oh yeah, that was in the NVIDIA leak. Maybe this is just them saying we're gonna continue that story, finish some story. We're gonna throw more people off cliffs. We promise. Get ready.
Well, I mean that's the problem. They could throwing people off cliffs is such a Tekken staple at this point. It's like I literally have no idea if it's like, yes, we're going to revisit this first. Oh my god, I'm old. Sorry.
That's messed up. That does not feel 7 years old. I agree. I don't know, for some reason. Oh man, life.
Where is my life gone?
I know, it's all slipping away from me. 7 years old. That is messed up. But yeah, this is probably Tekken 8 then, because it has been so long. We're the NVIDIA leak. I'll say, and I think this is just a cool way of doing this teaser. The teaser does seem like it may be suggesting some sort of remake, but I don't think so. I think this is probably going to be Tekken 8. Tekken, I did play some Tekken 7 when it came out, and I remember really, really enjoying it. So maybe Tekken 8 will be my chance to get back into it.
Fair. Aren't they also doing like a Tekken show on Netflix? Isn't that like,
probably.
Could this be like maybe a tie-in with that in some way?
That very likely could. I mean, companies love doing that right now, having their shows come out and doing a tie-in. That could be. I don't know if that's the case though, but I'm not sure.
That's fair.
Let's see. Arcade1Up is making a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade cabinet. I picked some details here from Mike Minotti at GamesBeat. Arcade1Up,
familiar.
yeah, that seems like a schmuck to me. Arcade1Up announced today that it's releasing a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet this fall. Pre-orders will start on September 8th, and the product will begin shipping a few weeks later. The machine also includes other games from Capcom's Marvel series, including Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, and Marvel Superheroes in War of the Gems. Sometimes I forget how many Marvel fighting games Capcom has made, but they made a lot.
Yeah, there's been a lot of playing Wolverine and Magneto in these games.
Yeah, absolutely. Like going back to like the very, very early 90s even. Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, like there was like some stuff they even put on Genesis. I think that Children of the Atom game I played on Genesis. Either way, this is very cool. I'm kind of surprised that this is happening. It felt like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 would have been too big, too complicated, too many vested interests with Disney and Capcom, and trying to get everybody to work together. But I mean, this also feels like it could very well be the best-selling fighting game machine that they put out. Even because, like, I don't know, something about it's like Street Fighter. They have a couple Street Fighter 2 cabinets that Arcade1Up has done. And they're cool and they're great. Street Fighter 2 is huge, but also like there are millions of ways to play Street Fighter 2. I feel like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 fans might feel even more precious about their game. And this cabinet is gorgeous looking. I have it up here on the video. And if you get a chance, if you're listening to the audio version, get a chance to look it up. You should. I'll try to put a link into the description for you. I don't know. I think I kind of just want it because of how beautiful it is. I mean, all the art from that time that Capcom was doing for other franchises that they would like work with. That was true for like their Disney games that they were making that always had really good art. But the Marvel art that they do, Spider-Man looks fantastic. The Incredible Hulk looks fantastic, and both are on the side here. And I'm kind of blown away about how cool it looks. And that's a good roster of fighting games too. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're kind of getting your money's worth. Although I don't think they've said how much this thing is going to cost. It's going to probably be a bit more expensive because it is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. What's the most you would pay for one of these Arcade1Up things?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how much this. I mean, we're talking about like I live in a tiny apartment, so it's a matter of like, well, do I even have space for something like this?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. I could shell out like maybe a couple hundred, but then I'm also like, I could also just like get these games elsewhere. But like, if it's a matter of like, I would drop thousands if I had the money. Like if I had the money in space, if money were no object, like yeah, please. I would love a cabinet like this. I remember playing some of these games. Like I think it was probably like original Marvel vs. Capcom. I swear I played some of these in an actual arcade. Or maybe it was just my friend's house and it was really cool, so I remember it as an arcade. So that's also possible. But I just remember these games I actually remember playing when I was younger. So I'm actually really excited about this.
Real quick update from the Locust Horde in chat. Tekken Bloodline comes out on August 18th. It's a Netflix anime. So good call out, Rachel. That was it's probably always good to have something kind of lined up. Doesn't have to come out at the exact same time. Obviously, Tekken 8 not coming out this year.
No.
We would have heard that already. And then, so everyone chat's saying it's probably going to be around $600. That has been the going rate for cabs like this. There was that Killer Instinct Pro cabinet that was like $1,000, and that makes me wonder if they're. And the riser costs extra, of course, yes. And they usually put out a stool as well, a themed stool. That you can get as well. So probably if you get like all of that, it would probably be like $700, right? That's how they would normally do it.
Look, I'm still saving up for a Steam Deck. I don't have that. I gotta use my scratch wisely.
Yes, I hear. I've been actually looking at a couple more Arcade1Up cabinets. I have the Rampage one that I love again mostly because the art on it is very cool, and this one has like that light up banner at the top. I also really like that. I haven't seen that on many of these cabinets. So I'm like, man, they're kind of going all out. I might start getting into these again. And I started looking at some of the options. They were going up in price, but a lot of them are on sale for like $300, $400 right now. And I'm like, man, that's just like right on the border of what I would be wanting to pay. And I'm like, then it's like hard to choose which one do I get. They have the stand-up Ridge Racer one that I like, but I kind of wish that was they also have a sit-down Daytona one, which isn't for sale anymore. At least I haven't been able to find it. I'm like, if that Ridge Racer one was a sit-down one, I would have got it at $400, no questions asked. But I'm like, the stand-up one's kind of awkward. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Okay. Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl has a new fighter, Hugh Neutron. Rachel, I'm counting on you to be my Jimmy Neutron correspondent. Is there any chance that was one of your shows?
Like, it was briefly one of my shows when I was younger, and I'm like, wait a minute. I admit when I first heard this, I was like, wait, tell me Jimmy's in this before. Like, did we really put Jimmy's dad in before Jimmy?
Well, see, I think Jimmy Neutron was probably on the main roster, right?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I never touched this game. I
Yeah,
watched
know.
some people play it.
You are not alone, I don't think. I mean, it feels like this game came and went, and now everyone's playing Multiversus instead.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't. Maybe if he was in Multiversus, I would be more excited about it. Like, oh, I could see how he does against Batman and Shaggy, but now I'm just like, okay, fine.
I don't want to be mean.
No, I don't want to. I mean, if people are, if we got Jimmy Neutron
shit
fans
compared to Multiversus, this game looks really bad. I'm sorry, this game looks rough. Maybe it's like they're doing something. I have this trailer we're watching, and I have it muted. Maybe they're doing something, but it just looks like, I don't know. The characters don't like gel together. The backgrounds look cheap. I mean, I get this, like Jimmy Neutron. There's weird stuff happening. I haven't watched a lot of the show. There's like just giant inflatable assets in the background is what it feels like. It just feels like, oh, those are assets from the asset store blown up. And I don't know. It just has no character. I think this game looks real bad.
No, yeah, we're going down the list, and I was watching these trailers beforehand, and it's like, oh, cool, new Street Fighter character, oh, Tekken teaser, Fatal Fury, Guilty Gear, and we're going down the list of fighting games, and it's like Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, and I'm like, phew, just like my level of energy is just like, oh, time to go off and get a coffee.
Exactly. Other news out of Evo, Dragon Ball FighterZ Z is getting rollback netcode. This is the GGPO protocol that everyone wants in their fighting games. It is the accepted online standard. One of the reasons everyone's so excited about that Project L fighting game out of Riot, it comes from the people who made GGPO rollback netcode. This feature, though, is only being added to the PC, Xbox Series X, and PlayStation 5 versions of the game. So the last-gen versions it feels like getting left behind at this point, which, I think I'm okay with, because it's been a couple of years where we are fully into the next generation. And it feels like, okay, well, at least they're going to keep supporting this game going forward, even if it means like people playing on those old systems will have to upgrade if they want to keep up with the latest version of the game.
I can't hate.
Yeah,
it's just true.
And it's like, I think they also said, like, if you have those old versions, there's like an upgrade path to get you to these new versions if you upgrade your system. So, unfortunately, there's no mention of rollback netcode support for Switch at the moment, and I feel like that's probably not going to happen either. I bet that game doesn't have a ton of people playing on Switch.
I feel like if you're a serious Dragon Ball FighterZ character, you're probably not on Switch.
Yeah, I agree. Guilty Gear Strive has surpassed 1 million units shipped. This makes it the first title sold by Arc System Works and the first Guilty Gear series to reach that huge milestone. I think this is kind of, I put this here like, okay, obviously this is it's news out of Evo and all this stuff like that, but it feels like fighting games are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? As huge as Smash is, I was not expecting even a free-to-play sort of take on that, like Multiversus, to blow up in the way it has. I just think that something has happened where there are a ton of people showing up for fighting games of all stripes now, and I think that's reflected here in Guilty Gear Strive being the first time an Arc System Works game has surpassed 1 million copies shipped. That's impressive, right?
So, especially considering, like you said, I mean, it's not even just a matter of like the games themselves, like individual games getting bigger. We've also got more options. I feel like even it was just a few years ago, like Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter on any given year was your only option if you wanted to play a new fighting game. And now we've got a lot of games coming out. It feels like even if it's just games that don't turn out and that don't end up turning out very well, since we just mentioned Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl. Like, even though that game didn't turn out to be a huge success, it was still, a company saying, hey, we want to do something with our IP and, put a video game out there capitalizing on it. What do? Fighting game. Like, the fact that that's the go-to now.
Right. And it's not like a lot of other genres where big publishers have stepped back and been like, I don't know if we can make money doing this anymore, so we're not going to do it. I mean, obviously that's happened to some extent, but the biggest publishers, Capcom, has never stopped making fighting games. They make fewer fighting games, but they haven't stopped. But yet at the same time, what has happened in other genres where smaller studios step in and be like, well, we can make a good one of these. A lot of the studios have done that, and it turns out like some of them have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over time, including Arc System Works, and now they're like basically one of the main champions of the genre. So it's basically video games working how they always have, where when an idea doesn't work so well for a big studio anymore, these smaller teams could step in and make it make sense for them, and so far it seems like it has made a lot of sense for Guilty Gear and Arc System Works. Let's see here. Finally, Multiversus Season 1 has been teased. It includes arcade mode, ranked matches, a Robin costume for LeBron James. So like Robin from Batman and Robin.
Okay.
Chris O'Donnell. He's basically his Chris O'Donnell cosplay. And a Valkyrie costume for Bugs Bunny. And that's all coming to Multiversus in Season 1. Is this the kind of stuff that gets? I mean, honestly, it's like, okay, if these were one of your characters, you would be like, okay, anything new for them, I'm going to be at least like peeking at. Maybe it's not the kind of thing I'm going to be spending money on. But like ranked matches, a lot of people are taking Multiversus pretty seriously, especially after Evo, I think. So I like that's going to be good. But yeah, I mean, they probably are going to have Season 1 come out, and I bet by like Season 3. It's going to be completely different, because I don't think they would have expected this game to blow up in the way it has. And it's like by Season 3, like it's going to be, it's going to make Season 1 like look pitiful in comparison. I think they're going to have so much stuff, so many options, so many things for you to buy, so many things for you to unlock. But this is like probably a decent start. This is where they need to be. I don't know if they said a new date for this, because I remember this being delayed.
They said stay tuned for an official date coming soon.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, we're still waiting on that date after it got delayed. So, fair enough. All right. That does it for our Evo roundup. If we get some time, we'll do a Grubb Snacks question there and the catch up, where if anyone has any questions about that stuff or wants to bring anything up, we'll talk about it then. So use that ask a question button there. We'll see what we can do. Okay, Rachel, let's move on to Beyond Good and Evil 2 getting a new lead writer. This comes from Rebecca Smith at PlayStation Lifestyle. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is one of those games seemingly stuck in development hell, but at least we know it seems still to be alive and now has a new lead writer. Blizzard's former narrative designer, Sarah Arellano, has joined Ubisoft's Montpellier. Man, that's a rough one for me. Ubisoft Montpellier in the aforementioned role, but it does suggest the game's development is nowhere near finished. Is that how you read this news, Rachel?
I mean, is that even news at this point? Beyond Good and Evil 2 stuck.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like we know this game is in testing based on some stuff I've heard, some stuff but other leakers have heard. But I'm wondering, okay, that must be a gameplay test. They are seeing if the game is fun, and yet that doesn't mean it's like, they're playing a near finished version of it. They are probably playing a near complete prototype of it, and now they need to turn that into a product. And then she's coming in Sarah Arellano, to help complete that and do what is maybe most important for Beyond Good and Evil 2 and make it feel like it captures the spirit of the original story and characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, if she can do that, I mean, more power to her, because I don't really know a whole lot. I mean, you'd probably know more than I do about what's going on behind the scenes over there, but I've heard it's a mess, and it looks like a mess from the outside, and it's at this point, like, it wouldn't surprise me if the game is still sort of in a, pre-production, early production phase, and they're only just now starting to really put some juice behind it. So, but if she can pull something good out of it, I will applaud her into the next decade, honestly.
Right. And this also feels like what we've been saying all along is that original pitch, the thing that they originally showed us, probably has not much to do with what we're going to end up getting. People take jobs late into development all the time, but lead writer specifically feels like one where it's like, okay, she's probably still going to have to shape a lot of what this game looks and feels like and acts like. So, yeah. All right, next story. Microsoft and Unity partnered to make Azure the default cloud provider for Unity, and they also want to make it easier for you to publish those Unity games on Xbox platforms. This comes from Sarah Bond in a blog post. Today, Unity has selected Azure as its cloud partner for building and operating real-time 3D experiences from the Unity engine. In addition, we're excited to work together to make it easier for game creators around the world to publish to Xbox consoles and PC so they can reach their communities. I read this whole blog post trying to find out exactly what that part means. We're excited to make it easier for game creators. This is kind of all they said about it. The partnership between Microsoft and Unity will also enable made with Unity game creators to more easily reach their players across Windows and Xbox devices and unlock new success opportunities. By engineering improved developer tools, leveraging the latest platform innovation from Silicon to Cloud, and simplifying the publishing experience, Unity creators will be able to realize their dreams by bringing their games to more gamers around the world. So,
my eyes crossed while you guys bring some of those parts.
Well, I think that's the exact, like, it's just not a lot of specifics. It is very broad things that could mean anything. But I mean, the point here is these two entities have partnered. This is another customer for Azure. It is another move where, yeah, sure, there are all these fights happening inside of gaming where people are battling over market share of sort of established verticals within gaming. People like, oh, Xbox versus PlayStation, and who's going to win there? Yeah, that fight is probably important still. I mean, obviously, like, whoever has more consoles, it makes it easier for people to spend more money. But then there's like a level above that where it's like the future is going to involve these cloud technologies, whether that means cloud streaming or not. I mean, everyone has their skepticism about that, sure. But it seems like more and more games are going to be made there, and the cloud is going to connect these games in important ways. And if there is going to be a metaverse, there's going to need to be a backbone for it, and maybe Azure can be that. Microsoft well ahead of everyone else, and the competitors there aren't Sony and Nintendo. The competitors there are Google and Amazon, and those are companies that have really struggled to figure out how to launch their gaming strategies, especially Google. Amazon has begun to figure it out a little bit with some of their MMOs and stuff like that. But they still, like, Microsoft obviously has so much of an advantage in understanding what developers need because they have 30 developers now or whatever. So when they go to talk to a partner like Unity, hey, we have the technology, we have like the hardware that's required to build this cloud that you need to build your games and have your partners build their games. And also we understand the challenges and the obstacles they're going to run into, and we are solving them. We're working with Hideo Kojima right now to make a big cloud game or a game that uses cloud technology. And we have a major team in place to solve every problem he's going to run into. So as you are encountering problems, well, we have people working on those problems already. So come work with us. And it feels like this fight is just almost already over before it began in terms of Microsoft positioning itself as the dominant force in providing these cloud technologies to people. Do you, as far as like Unity's concerned, what do you think is going on with Unity? Because they definitely seem like they are flailing a little bit and trying to compete with Unreal. Do you think this makes a difference to a developer trying to choose where to make their next game?
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say because I mean you're right. They do seem like they're sort of like losing their footing a little bit compared with their competitors, and I'm not sure this kind of a partnership is really going to do. It feels like it's going to do more for Microsoft and Azure than it's going to do for Unity, and
Right.
oh gosh, it's hard to say. I don't want to speak out of turn because I also don't want to, turn around and say like, "Oh yeah, they can't compete," or "Oh, this is going to be a big boost for Unity," because it really doesn't feel like it's going to go either way for Unity.
Right. It kind of feels like they're skating forward on the momentum they have, and that's enough to keep them going. But it's hard for me to see the pathway for growth for them that they seem to desperately want. Which is why they are doing stuff like buying ad tech companies to bake into Unity and things like that. Someone in chat says, "Does anyone except for the smallest indie studios use Unity?" I'm trying to remember. There was very recently, in like the past week, there was a news story about a major publisher using Unity for one of their games, and it even had the made with Unity splash screen. So it was like they didn't even pay to get rid of that. But I can't remember. I thought it was like Square Enix, maybe, but that's not right. I'd have to like look and see for myself. All right, YouTube will hold the first ever interactive gaming live stream. Somehow I feel like that is not true, but they quote unquote call it the first ever interactive gaming live stream. This comes from Andy Robinson at VGC. YouTube has announced the first ever interactive gaming live stream, YouTube GameOn, as it's called. The platform's self-proclaimed biggest gaming special ever will stream on Saturday, August 27th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and feature around 2 hours of content hosted by more than 60 popular creators. There's like some more details here, Rachel, but this is giving me like some executive at a TV network being like, games seem popular. Go put together a game show for me, a show based on games. We'll make it a big special event. And they don't really seem to understand it. This is giving me those vibes. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. This smacks not of something that like like the YouTube community wants. It's more, an executive at Google is saying, "Hey, let's do something to remind everyone we have a lot of game creators
Yes.
around here, and let's come up with a snappy, like, we're doing this the first thing or something, even if it's demonstrably not true."
Yeah.
And
Okay, so I mean, here's what they say in terms of like the interactive stuff. Viewers will be able to play along by voting in real time on unique gaming challenges and influence how the stream will play out, according to YouTube. Okay, so
maybe that's the first for YouTube.
Yeah, maybe, right? Because like I know I have a game right now, which Cult of the Lamb has announced that it has like Twitch integration, and people can like interact with that stuff, and you're going to be able to stream that game when that comes out, and that's going to happen before August 27th. That has been a thing for a lot of games. Go ahead.
Yeah, and wasn't that like a selling point? Like, I'm gonna like let's resurrect the dead a little bit here, but wasn't that sort of like a little bit of a selling point for Mixer? Was that you could interact, like there was a deeper bond between the streamer and the viewer, and you could interact with them more.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
I mean, I never actually streamed on Mixer, but from my friends who did, that was what I understood was a big thing for them. But I will say, like, the first thing that caught my eye about this was I thought, oh, is this a charity thing? What charity are we supporting? Oh, no charity. Oh, we're just having a big old a big old gratification festival, for YouTube and its biggest names.
Yes, it's a big old commercial product. It's an activation is what it feels like. It's like we have a major activation coming up and we're looking for sponsors. And if you want to sponsor it, come on and be a part of YouTube GameOn. Did you know it's the first interactive gaming live stream? It feels like we are getting the pitch deck that for potential sponsors, and they've not like filtered it to actually go out and be read by real human beings. Here's some other details. This fully interactive live stream celebrates the diversity of gaming content that makes up YouTube gaming culture. Not diversity of humans, the diversity of gaming content that makes up YouTube gaming culture. From entertaining gaming challenges and surprise gameplay moments to honoring classic gaming anniversaries, all of which are inspired by the most popular trends on the platform, it said. Yeah, this feels like it was directed by the algorithm. I don't want to be mean, but this sounds stupid as hell. Yeah, this is making me kind of mad, actually, the more I read it. Segments include a frightening batch of analog horror challenges and Hot Ones challenge hosted by Sean Evans, where viewer-selected players will go head-to-head playing Street Fighter 6, and where defeated players must eat increasingly hot wings. Games featured in the stream include Among Us, Fall Guys, Fortnite, Free Fire, Friday Night Funkin', Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, Mortal Kombat 11, Poppy Playtime, Rocket League, Street Fighter 6, Trackmania, and more. So, again, this doesn't even feel like it is a big new game announcement thing. Like, Street Fighter 6 is going to be there, but they are not promising new reveals or anything like that beyond that.
Remember when they would do the YouTube Rewind stuff? They stopped doing that after a while because it very transparently became less about, hey, let's celebrate the great creators on this platform, and more about, hey, let's put together like basically a demo reel for people to sponsor stuff on YouTube. They cleaned it up. They only put out like the creators that were most palatable, and I can't help but feel that this is kind of something similar.
Yeah,
it's I'm really not like anticipating one of those, like, trust me, I watch YouTube gaming content all the time. I'm not saying there's a whole wealth of great stuff on the platform. I think we're going to see a very cleaned up and sponsor friendly version of that. I mean, if you look at the list of creators, again, I like all of these. Well, not all of them, but I do like a lot of these creators. But a lot of them are very sponsor friendly, I think.
Yeah, I think that that is overall the sense I get from this. That Twitch isn't anything to sing home about, owned by Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and all that stuff. But you get the sense that with Twitch, most of the time when they make decisions, they are making decisions thinking about what the community is going to think. And
hi Twitch, please don't shut this stream down.
yeah, hey, love Jeff Bezos. But when YouTube does it, it feels very much like the things that they get excited for have nothing to do with like what the community, the viewers or creators actually care about all that much. It is very much like, oh man, Nestle showed up and they're gonna write us a big check, and that's what I'm like. Hell yeah, can you believe that? Isn't that awesome? And like many of the creators maybe are excited about that, but I bet many are like, no, I want to do fun and cool stuff. But whatever, I don't know. Good luck, YouTube GameOn, with the first ever interactive gaming live stream. All right,
we'll be there, but have fun.
Yeah, I will probably not put it on in the background. I was about to lie and say I would, but I'm probably not going to. All right, let's get to the catch up, where I just wanted to bring up this story from Damian McFerrin over at Time Extension. He wrote, this is the title: Drugged Coffee, Pirated Games, and Empty Bank Accounts, the story of GameFan magazine. I grew up on gaming magazines. Rachel, I don't know if were you reading gaming magazines as a kid, or was the internet plentiful by the time that you were getting into games as a young adult?
No, I read some gaming magazines, but I don't think I ever read GameFan.
I was not much of a GameFan reader either, actually, but it's definitely, this story seems to capture, I think, a lot of what early gaming magazines were like. And so I've started reading it. I haven't finished. Here's an excerpt from it. Where someone was, this is from a first person recounting. My first day in the offices, I was dumbfounded at how garage the whole organization felt. There was no consistency to the types of computers being used, outside of mostly being Macs, and many of them were out of date, more out of date than I expected. The space that was being rented in an office building in Agora Hills, California, was a total mess, feeling more like a college fraternity than a professional company. I really couldn't believe how that company, how that group of people could make a full and proper magazine every month under these circumstances. Once the shock wore off and I got into the swing of things, there was definitely bad parts, but there was far more good. It was like a dream come true. This was long before the age of the internet as we know it now, before there were all these huge video game focused websites, podcasts, YouTube channels, streams, or the opportunity for anyone and everyone to get their voice out there. Getting hired on a gaming magazine was still a huge position and meant my writing would have a reach that few others could claim. And GameFan was the perfect fit for me as a gamer. I was far more into imports, and I always consider myself more of a fan than a journalist, so I love the exciting and enthusiasm the entire magazine always exuded. That for me actually like really gets to like my problem with GameFan at the time, is it didn't feel like a professional undertaking. And I was much more into stuff like EGM, and EGM was like, at this time, early GameFan and EGM actually weren't all that different. Early EGM was like, all previews have to be positive. They actually just talked about this on Player One podcast this past week, who included some people who like began writing around that time, where it's like, all previews have to be positive because we don't want to make the gaming companies mad at us. That's what they were like. That was their thinking at the time. Like, it was very important that gaming companies were happy with the magazine because that's where all the sponsorships came from. But still, like, by the time, like, that changed pretty quickly through the 90s. And so, like, when I was kind of beginning to read more and more gaming magazines, I got way into EGM because I could tell that they took the stuff seriously and had like a dividing line between, you know, who was sponsoring the magazines and the editorial structure of it. But yeah, I'm planning to read this whole story about like, okay, yeah, who did drug coffee? Oh my God, that sounds scary and horrifying.
Sinister.
And the kind of thing that could happen at a video game magazine in the 90s is exactly what that sounds like. So yeah, I wanted to put this out there and let everyone get a chance to read this. I did a YouTube video on my own account where I went through an early EGM and was kind of reading through it and seeing how video game coverage had changed. I might do another one of those videos. Maybe we'll bring GameFan into it.
Like
okay.
Fun. Yeah, I like these little stories. Well, not little story, but I like stories about these pieces of sort of gaming ephemera. Because I mean, especially with the generation of gamers that are adults now, and boy, don't I feel old. But they would never have any experience with something like GameFan or even EGM, really.
Yes.
And so this is really important, I think, for not just the history of games, but the history of game coverage. Which maybe that's only important to you and me, since we're that's our job.
I think it would give real perspective, but I mean, what are you going to do? Just be like, you have no idea how bad it once was. You think you complain about games journalists today. You have no idea what it was like before we were doing this job. Like, it's a completely different world, and ethical conversations about the way to handle situations is something we take pretty seriously. Those were conversations that just never even happened back then. Eventually that stuff got brought into it, and it was in like the late 90s when people like Dan Shu would take over AGM and John Davison, and they had like serious background of journalistic ethics that they brought to the job and stuff like that. But it was very noticeable, the change from one world to the other. But at the same time, they're like, that's not, most of the kids that complain about games journalists don't care, and it's fine that they can complain.
It's like bringing in an old Sears catalog. It's like you think shopping is weird now. Like, this is what shopping used to be.
Yes, right.
Like,
exactly.
this is what game writing used to be like.
Yes, exactly. And Crafty in chat says John Davis was a good singer in Korn. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Crafty. All right, let's get to the poll question from Friday. Do you use or plan to use any gaming subscription family plans? 48.9% said yes. 51.1% said no. This is higher than I was expecting, Rachel.
Close.
But it's close, but it's like, families, like how many people are in a position where they need to have like 4 to 5 Xbox Live subscriptions or 8 Nintendo Switch online subscriptions? I think it's kind of a surprisingly high number to have like almost half say, yes, I'm going to use this. Would you? Do you?
Yeah, I would definitely, because I already use my my Game Pass for my husband and I, so that we can, which is weird because we're on the same Xbox, but we have our different
Sure,
accounts.
yeah.
So, and it's nice to be able to share our, to share the games across all the accounts, and it's kind of
Yeah.
the same with Switch Online, with Nintendo Switch Online, so that we can download the games and play them together. And I understand to an extent, but I also see why a lot of people would be like, nah, this is of no use to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you are someone who, lives alone, you're relatively young, I could see doing this with like a group of friends, but then me and Patrick Cupper were talking about this on Friday. He's like, most of the time I bet people who do this aren't actually doing the money splitting thing where, okay, I'm going to get this and we're all going to save money by you giving me $5 per month instead of you having to pay $15 per month on your own. That's a hassle. Most people are going to be like, well, I got the family plan. Do you want to be on it? And like, that's actually how I do it with like my YouTube account. I have a family thing and I don't ever ask anyone for money to help offset the cost of that. They just like, if they could be on it, if they want, and if not, whatever. It's, no skin off my back. And so I think in that situation, it's like, okay, most people are probably just going to keep buying it on their own because that's the easiest. And it doesn't have that like emotional, emotional labor involved of trying to like round up people to spend money together. So yeah, I'm not too surprised by these results.
I guess the implication being that because it's a, family plan, there might be family like accounts that you would pay out for to the to the subscription, which is kind of what my husband and I do.
Exactly.
So yeah, I can understand that. But at the same time, I'm thinking, that does make sense. It's like if it's more of like a Netflix situation where, it's like I call it like my roommate in college is still on my Netflix plan or something. I'm not calling her up and saying, hey, I need you to fork me over $250 for the Netflix account or something like that.
Yeah. And I think that's, when it comes to actual families or like tight knit groups of friends who are always kind of share these things, that stuff makes a ton of sense. They're obviously going to take advantage of these things, and they should. That's who it's for. If you are like the, the gaming leader of your family or whatever, and it's like, and like everyone's like, oh, hey, can I play your game system? Because everyone knows it's yours. Like, yeah, and then if we get another one, I'm just going to get the family plan so you could just have all the stuff, have access to it right away, and go to town. And it makes sense in that case, especially for the companies. Like, people are looking at this and be like, oh, this is Microsoft lowering the cost because people are going to split the cost of a higher of one of these family plans instead of just buying a single thing. It's like, no, more likely there's going to be a lot of people who were already paying $15 per month deciding to spend more and getting the $25 per month because now when they go to convince their friends to come play with them, they're like, I already have a family plan for you to hop on. Just sign up. I'll add you to my account. And now you have all these games too, and we can play together all the time. And so that they're getting more money out of that person who is the most likely to spend money with them instead of like the more difficult thing of convincing someone who isn't so sure if they're going to get their money's worth out of this to come and pay $15 per month. So it makes a ton of sense.
It does,
all right.
Yeah.
Let's go with the new poll for tomorrow. Oh, actually, for Wednesday. I'm sorry. We got the Bombcast tomorrow. So let's see. Are you picking up Splatoon 3 at launch? Splatoon 3.
I mean, I probably will.
I definitely will. I'm expecting to be a pretty successful game. Obviously, it's going to be successful in Japan. It's one of the biggest new Nintendo franchises in Japan. But I'm like, I want to see, like, okay, after so many more options on the Switch now since Splatoon 2 came out, like, are people still like clamoring for something like this? I think they will be, in the United States and elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of time. There's time between, doing, when it comes out and Bayonetta 3, where, there's enough time for me to play some Splatoon.
Yeah, and
I gotta do something to keep myself busy.
Exactly, and it's like the kind of thing where it's fun to pick up every once in a while. Like we'll be playing it in our community. We've had a couple of Splatoon 2 game nights. We had a lot of fun with. So it's like, yeah, it's like kind of thing where we'll just hop in and play a couple of matches here and there every once in a while. And then when a new Switch game comes out that distracts you from it, that's fine. You just come back to Splatoon later. So, yeah. And Dougfoot says, I'm still playing through Xenoblade 3. And you probably will still be playing through Xenoblade 3 when Splatoon 3 comes out in a month. Because, man, that game seems big. I'm starting Xenoblade Chronicles 3 tonight, I think. We'll see. I'm going to start it and try it out and see what I think.
Yeah, I got to, seriously try to, buckle down. I say it like it's a task, but it's like over the weekend I was detaching a little bit and I was like, I'm not in the mood for a big RPG, and I gotta just be like, okay, let's just get our coffee and our hiking gear and let's just get in there and do it.
That's exactly right. It's how I feel too. Rachel, where can people find you? You got anything coming up this week you want to pump?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Rachel Kaser, and I'm on Twitch. Grace of Athena is my tag, and what have I got going on this week? I might try streaming something a little bit later, but in writing terms, you can find me on GamesBeat as, for my professional writing and my personal writing. If you have any interest in older TV shows, I'm not going to name names necessarily, but I know I've got one coming out today for a new episode. Well, not new, but another episode of Perry Mason. And, I've also got some other things that I'm
She's holding a giant Golden Girls cup, just for audio listeners. A giant gold. I think that might be a hint. I think it might be.
Maybe, just a little bit. But anyway, yeah. So that's what I'm doing this week. So,
awesome.
Yeah, hope to see you there.
And and the giant bomb this week. We got our meeting here in a little bit. We're gonna figure it out. We'll be doing, I would expect, more live streams after this show. That is kind of like we tested it out on Friday. If you like that, where right after Game Mess Mornings, we went right into Jan and Jess playing that mortuary assistant. Probably be doing more of that this week. It's Monday, so we got to go to the meeting right after this. Yeah. I thought it was great. It was fantastic. And that's the game is, that's how I want to experience that game, is watching Jan get spooked through it. Although he seemed pretty cold-blooded about it. But right now we're going to go figure out the rest of the week and come back with more. I will probably be doing a Grubby stream today, though, at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll come back and we'll do that. So, yes, for today, no stream right after. But if you want to stick around, come back around later, 2 p.m., I'll be doing a Grubby stream. We'll figure that out. I think I'm probably going to mess around with the Analog Pocket. It's got that update. I haven't done it yet. Maybe we could just run through the process of updating it, maybe adding some of my video game backups to it and play some games on there and see how that goes. Or I could start Xenoblade 3 on stream. Maybe that's the plan.
I mean,
Jesus Christ.
It's like, do you want a fluffy YouTube video sort of content, or do you want Game of Thrones?
Yeah, we'll see.
That's the difference between the two.
And Jan might tag along. Okay, that sounds like fun. That sounds like a plan. All right, everybody, get back for that. Plenty more is happening on Giant Bomb this week. We got some show we're planning to kick off, a new feature. Then, of course, all the normal stuff. Voicemail dump truck. We'll have UPF on Friday. Bombcast tomorrow. Tune in for that, please. And then I'll be back with more Game Mess Mornings on Wednesday. Until then, we are out. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.